So as I sat in the cold, sterile waiting room of Dr. Harlow's dental clinic, a familiar knot of dread twisted in my stomach. The faint antiseptic scent in the air only intensified my unease. I was here for my quarterly dental checkup, a routine that had become my personal hell. You see, I had dentophobia, a crippling fear of dentists. It wasn't always like this. My fear began one fateful day when I was just a child. Dr. Harlow, with his cold metallic tools and icy demeanor, had made sure of that. I had never met a man more obsessed with teeth. He seemed to take a sinister pleasure in poking and prodding at my gums, despite my pleas for mercy. "Travis, it's time," the receptionist called, her voice like nails on a chalkboard. I reluctantly dragged myself out of the uncomfortable plastic chair and followed her into the examination room, where the ominous dental chair loomed like a medieval torture device. Dr. Harlow entered, his surgical mask covering most of his face, his eyes the only visible part. They gleamed with an unsettling intensity as he examined me, a predator sizing up its prey. His gloved hand reached for a tray of gleaming instruments, and I felt a wave of nausea wash over me. I couldn't escape. The terror gripped me, and I was paralyzed in that chair, my heart pounding like a drum. I tried to rationalize my fear. I knew that Dr. Harlow was a professional, and he had never intentionally harmed me. But my phobia didn't care about logic. It was a visceral, primal fear that consumed me. The dentist's voice cut through my thoughts like a razor blade. "Open wide, Travis," he said, his tone devoid of warmth. I complied, my mouth feeling like it was filled with cotton balls. I couldn't see what he was doing, but I could hear the ominous whirring of a dental drill, and the fear escalated. Minutes passed like hours as I lay there, my mind a whirlwind of terror. Every touch of the cold metal against my teeth sent shivers down my spine. I desperately wanted to flee, to escape this nightmare, but I couldn't move. Then suddenly a searing pain shot through my mouth. I screamed, my voice muffled by the dental instruments. Dr. Harlow withdrew, his eyes narrowing in annoyance. "Stop being so dramatic, Travis," he said, his voice tinged with irritation. Tears welled up in my eyes as I tried to speak, tried to convey the agony I was in, but all that came out were incomprehensible mumbles. The pain intensified, and I felt a metallic taste in my mouth as blood filled the spaces between my teeth. It was then that I realized something was terribly wrong. Dr. Harlow was no longer working on my teeth. He was cutting into the soft tissue of my gums. Panic surged through me as I realized I was trapped, at the mercy of a sadistic dentist who had crossed a line. The agony was unbearable as Dr. Harlow continued his reckless, cruel assault on my mouth. The metallic tang of blood filled the air, and my vision blurred with tears of pain and terror. I could hear him muttering to himself, his gloved hands working with unsettling precision. I wanted to scream, to fight back, but I was immobilized by fear, the leather restraint securing me to the dental chair, rendering me helpless. Panic welled up, and my mind raced for a way out of this nightmare. Just when I thought I couldn't endure another second of torment, the door to the examination room burst open, and a nurse rushed in. Her eyes widened in horror as she took in the scene before her, my blood-soaked face contorted in anguish. "Dr. Harlow, what are you doing?" she exclaimed, her voice trembling with disbelief. The dentist paused, his gloved hand still hovering over my mouth. He turned to the nurse, his eyes cold and calculating. "There was an issue with his gums," he said, his tone unnervingly calm. The nurse wasn't buying it. She approached the dental chair cautiously, her eyes locked onto Dr. Harlow's face. "This is not a gum procedure, doctor. What the hell were you thinking?" Dr. Harlow seemed to hesitate for a moment, his mask of composure slipping. But then, with a sinister grin, he said, "I was just testing his pain threshold, nurse. A little experiment, you know." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. The dentist was trying to pass off his sadistic actions as a mere experiment. My heart pounded with a mixture of rage and terror as I lay there, bloodied and violated. The nurse, clearly not buying Dr. Harlow's excuse, quickly activated the emergency button on the wall, summoning security and additional medical staff. Within moments, the room was filled with chaos as my tormentor was forcibly restrained and led away. As I lay there trembling and in excruciating pain, the nurse tried her best to comfort me, promising that justice would be served. But the damage had been done, not just to my mouth but to my psyche. My fear had evolved into something far more sinister, a deep-seated dread of not just dentists, but of the darkness that could lurk behind a professional facade. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to my channel for more stories. Your support means the world to me, and it helps me create more great content for you. Until next time.